brilliant, precocious, evil, and not evil in it, but a good kind of, like more precocious. Evil's too strong a word. He had, not smarter than everybody else, but saw things differently. Maybe saw what was really happening, where the adults were always caught up in their reading into, situations that Ernie just cut to the chase and always had the best lines. It was great. It was fun to play.
What was his initial relationship with the Douglas family, and how did that evolve?
The initial, well, he was the friend next door, and it was playing the friend of Chip, who was my real brother Stan. And of course, in that first year, we were in the same classroom together, with seemingly we were the same age, or at least close, because we were peers. And then I didn't even know, they didn't even mention anything about the fact that I was supposed to be a foster child. Because then the next year, when they needed another son, because Tim Considine, who was playing Mike, was leaving, then they said, "Oh, you're a foster child. You didn't know that?" I said, just completely changed my interpretation of the role, probably. But I was told that that's the story. Your parents are leaving, and now you're going to be adopted, by the Douglas family. And it all worked. I mean, there was a little bit of, I'm sure, concern, because at the same time, William Frawley, who played Bub, who was the nanny on the show, was just too ill to kind of continue, and William Demers came in as his replacement. So anytime you have a key member of the cast leave, in this case it was Tim Considine and William Frawley, there's always that uncertainty that the audience won't take well to that, and because they get comfortable with those faces and those people and those interactions. And luckily for both of us, the ratings continued to be good, and people accepted us, and they had a six episode arc that explained how I became adopted into the family and what happened to my parents. And then once they got past that, they never mentioned it again. Never heard that I was adopted, or whatever happened to my original parents, or even Mike, was the son that he never fell down a mine shaft in Peru or something. Nobody knows what happened.
How did Ernie evolve over the years?
I don't know if he did. I don't know if he did. He got older a little bit. It's television. I mean, this was not real life. And once they established the tone of a character, they're very loath to sort of start monkeying around with it. And even though the show itself traveled through an era in real American life that suddenly was, a very tumultuous time in the 60s. And in fact, My Three Sons, in the very early years, was probably maybe an honest reflection of middle-class American life, middle America. By 1968, when drugs and the Beatles and psychedelia and Vietnam War and abortion and all these other issues became, front and center, My Three Sons was still kind of living in Pleasantville. So we didn't evolve terribly much. I mean, I know the other guys all got to get married. I eventually started dating, I think. That was about the extent of my evolution. I always wanted to grow my hair longer, because I wanted to be a representative of my peers, and I would go back to public school, so I knew what was happening, and none of that was being reflected in My Three Sons, not in any kind of, way that I thought might occur. But now, in retrospect, you look at it and you go, it was a very smart decision by the producers not to suddenly turn it into All in the Family, that Uncle Charlie's got cancer or something, or, Fred McMurray is, going to counseling because he's so depressed, or, the boys have drug problems, Although somebody said that there was an episode, probably in the very latter part of the show, one of the last years, where there was it might have even been Butch Patrick, oddly enough, talking about he has a problem with weed, where they, and I was supposed to be like maybe a mentor and a good influence on him, which obviously if it's Butch, no, I wasn't that good of an influence on him.